This film presents the maintenance operations of major components and is based on the content of the engine manual 8,000 to 16,000 hours. It should be used in combination with relevant engine manuals or the interactive instruction manual for VASA 32 engines. High-pressure hydraulic tools are used to tighten and loosen the most important bolt connections in a diesel engine today. Characteristic of these connections is the round nut, which is tightened by hand with a small pin after the bolt has been tensioned with a hydraulic cylinder. We show here the most important hydraulically tightened connections: cylinder head studs, connecting rod bolts, side bolts, main bearing bolt. As an example, we show here in detail how the hydraulic tools are used on a connecting rod assembly. Lift the distance sleeves together with the hydraulic cylinders in position on the connecting rod bolts and tighten them by hand. On inline engines, use long distance sleeves and extension pieces on the hydraulic cylinders, while on V engines, short distance sleeves without extension pieces are used. Connect the hoses in series as shown here. Open the valve on the hydraulic pump. Turn the hydraulic cylinders to the start position as shown, so that the hydraulic piston is even with the hydraulic cylinder. Turn the cylinders 180 degrees counterclockwise when loosening a hydraulic connection. A note of caution: when tightening, don't turn the cylinders. Close the valve on the hydraulic pump. Raise the pressure to the value stated in the manual, Chapter 7. Loosen the nuts about half a turn. Open the valve on the hydraulic pump. Check that the nuts are loose. Then remove the hoses. Remove the hydraulic cylinders together with the distance sleeves. Remove the upper bolt together with the nut by using the stud remover. The procedures just shown are used in the maintenance operations that now follow. First, open the indicator valves and drain the cooling water below the level of the cylinder heads. Remove the cooling water discharge pipe before removing the cylinder head cover to prevent water remaining in the pipe to enter the lube oil system. Lift off the cylinder head cover. Remove the covers over the injection pumps and the insulation panel over the exhaust gas connections to the cylinder head. Remove the fastening bolts of the exhaust pipe clamp. Remove the bolts of the air bend. Then, disconnect the oil pipe and the pilot starting air pipe. If the engine is equipped with a nozzle temperature control system, disconnect these pipes also. Remove the discharge pipe from the double-walled injection pipe, if such protection is fitted. Remove the injection pipe using the flare nut wrench. Here it is good practice to check that the high-pressure connection piece is correctly tightened in the cylinder head. Make sure that you protect all connections. Remove the covers of the cylinder head bolts. Make sure that the inlet and exhaust valves are closed by checking that the push rods are not loaded. put on the distance sleeves and the hydraulic cylinders. Screw on the cylinders by hand. Connect the hoses according to the diagram and follow the procedure for loosening hydraulic nuts. Raise the pressure to the value stated in the engine manual. Open the nuts about half a turn. This is about 5 strokes with the pin. Release the pressure slowly and check that the nuts are loose. Remove the hoses, hydraulic cylinders and sleeves. Remove the cylinder head nuts. The cylinder head is now ready for lifting. Next, apply the cylinder head lifting tool. Lift off the cylinder head very carefully and check that it is free on all sides. Note that the same tool is used in a different way on the V engine. Cover the cylinder opening with a piece of plywood or something similar and protect the pipes and the bolt threads. Remove the protection cover from the cylinder opening. Cover the piston top with a cloth or paper, pressed tightly against the cylinder wall. Now scrape off any carbon deposits around the upper part of the cylinder liner to avoid the liner coming loose. Clean the threaded holes in the piston crown and fasten the lifting tool by using hexagonal bolts. Turn the crankshaft from top dead center towards the maneuvering side for the cylinder concerned. On inline engines, 106 to 110 degrees. On V engines, 84 degrees. Remove the crankcase cover. Lift the hydraulic tool in position and tighten by hand. Connect the hoses according to the diagram and apply the prescribed pressure found in Chapter 7 of the engine manual. Then open the nuts about half a turn or 5 to 6 full strokes of the pin. Release the pressure and check that the nuts are loose. Remove the hydraulic cylinders. Remove the upper stud together with the nut by using a stud remover. Note that the locking bolt of the tool has left-hand thread. The nut of the lower stud must be hand tightened. Remove the stud remover from the stud. Place the slim dismantling bolt instead of the upper stud by using a 13mm socket wrench. Tighten the slim bolt until it hits the bottom of the threaded hole. Lock the bearing cap with the hand wheel on the slim bolt hand tight. Remove the lower stud and nut. Undo the hand wheel and remove the big end bearing cap. Remove the slim bolt carefully. Do not scratch the bearing journal. Place the protecting sleeves in position. They are used mainly in V engines to protect the liner and crank pin. Lift the piston and connecting rod and take care not to damage the crank pin or the cylinder liner wall. Move the piston assembly aside and place it preferably on a special service trestle. Cover the oil hole in the crank pin with tape or a rag. Always hone the cylinder liner when new piston rings are fitted. Normally, light deglazing is sufficient. Protect the crankshaft and oil sump with a plastic sheet. Use honing oil or light lubrication engine oil. Only honing stones with a coarseness of 100 to 120 should be used. The pitch angle crosshatch pattern in the liner should be about 30 degrees from horizontal. Try different strokes per minute to get the optimal crosshatched pattern. Clean with a brush, soap and water. Dry with a cloth and lubricate with engine oil to avoid corrosion. Drain the engine cooling water jackets completely. Loosen the hold-down clamp between the cylinder liners. Suspend the cylinder liner extractor on a hoist using the 2 shackles and a short lifting strap. The upper small yoke is removed before lowering. Note how the top end bracket is positioned to facilitate lowering of the tool down through the cylinder liner. Lower it down through the cylinder liner. Check that the lower bracket sits properly in the bottom of the liner. Tighten the brackets on the top of the rods and align them across the liner. Attach the upper small yoke with 2 bolts. Put the nuts on 2 diagonally opposite cylinder head bolts so that a few threads are visible. Position the crossbeam so that it rests on the nuts. Screw in the tension rod and attach the hydraulic cylinder and secure with a nut. Connect the hoses from the hydraulic pump, open the valve and tighten the tool assembly. close the valve and pump pressure to withdraw the cylinder liner. The pressure must not exceed 800 bar. When the liner is loose, open the valve on the pump and remove the hydraulic cylinder, the tension rod and the crossbeam. Use a hoist to lift out the liner. When the liner is removed, the water spaces of the liner and the jacket, as well as all the sealing surfaces, should be inspected. If the cooling water was treated with a suitable inhibitor, the water side of the cylinder liner can easily be cleaned of deposits with a wire brush. The cooling bores in the collar can be cleaned with drill bits of the proper size. Check that all guide and contact faces of the cylinder liner and engine block are clean and intact. Remove the O-rings. Check that the O-ring grooves of the cylinder liner are clean and insert new O-rings. Lubricate the O-rings and the sealing faces with Molykote or grease and assemble the lifting device. The top sealing surface of the liner against the block should also preferably be coated with non-drying gasket compound. Lower the liner carefully into the cylinder block. When the lower O-ring touches the engine block, align the liner according to the marks. Lower further and press into position by hand. Fit the holder and tighten the bolt to the stated torque, 200 Newton meters. The inner diameter should be checked when overhauling to record the wear rate. Also, when a new liner is mounted, its geometrics should be checked. A dial type of measuring tool is used here. Always calibrate the tool before measuring. Measure the liner in 4 directions and at 4 different levels, as in our measurement records. Make sure that the surface is clean at the measuring spot. Always make a note of the result in the measurement record and check that neither ovality nor total wear exceeds the wear rates stated in the engine manual. Dismantle the piston rings from the piston by using the piston ring pliers. The scraper rings should be removed with bare hands. Remove the springs from the scraper ring grooves. Always clean the piston crown and the piston ring grooves carefully. Cleaning is easily carried out if the carbonized parts are soaked in kerosene or diesel oil. Most chemical cleaning agents can be used, but only on the piston crown. Never scrape off the special surface coating of the skirt. The ring grooves can be cleaned, for example, with a broken piston ring, which is sharpened to a suitable shape. Clean the grooves before measuring. Measure the height of the piston ring groove with a groove micrometer or with a new piston ring together with a feeler gauge. When noting the measuring result, also make note of the method used. Groove measurements and clearances are found in Chapter 6 in the manual. If the measuring check shows measurements within the limits, only the piston ring needs to be changed. New piston rings must always be fitted. Check that the correct ring combination is supplied. Starting with the scraper ring, fit the ring with its gap opposite to the spring joint. When assembling the chrome-plated compression rings, put the side mark top upwards.